Imagine you're at a concert. The crowd around you is loud, the bass is thumping, and the lights are flashing in a mesmerizing sequence. Your favorite song comes on, and suddenly, you feel a rush of excitement. You're completely absorbed in the moment. The music, the energy, the movement. You're no longer aware of your surroundings, of the people beside you, or even of yourself. You've become the experience. But what if, in that very moment, you suddenly become aware of yourself standing there, dancing, smiling? What if you take a mental step back and realize, wait a minute, I'm here, right now, feeling all this. I'm aware that I'm experiencing this. This subtle shift is like waking up inside a dream, knowing that you're dreaming, yet fully engaged in the dream's storyline. This is not just being present, it's being lucid in the present. Being lucid in daily life is a bit like that moment of self-awareness at the concert. You go from being completely absorbed in your thoughts, emotions, and surroundings to becoming the observer of your experience. It's the difference between getting lost in the noise of life and recognizing that you are the one hearing the noise. Most of us spend our lives in the former state, swept away by the current of thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences, rarely pausing to notice that we are the ones experiencing these things. Consider a simple example. You're sitting in a cafe, sipping your coffee, scrolling through your phone. Without realizing it, your mind drifts to a conversation you had earlier that day. You replay the exchange in your head, analyzing it, maybe feeling a twinge of annoyance or regret. Before you know it, you're not really in the cafe anymore. You're in your mind, fully immersed in that earlier moment. Then suddenly you snap back to the present. The taste of the coffee, the hum of chatter around you, the weight of the phone in your hand. For a brief moment, you're aware that you've been lost in thought, and now you're back. That's a flicker of lucidity. The beauty of this lucid awareness is that it can transform ordinary moments into something extraordinary. Think about walking through a park. Usually your mind might be preoccupied with to-do lists, worries, or memories. But if you become lucid in that moment, if you consciously recognize that you are walking, feeling the breeze, and hearing the rustling leaves, you experience the richness of life in a deeper way. You're not just existing, you're fully awake in your existence. Why is this distinction important? Because so much of our suffering comes from being lost in the noise of life. When you're not aware that you are the one experiencing your thoughts and emotions, it's easy to get carried away by them. Stress, anxiety, anger, they can take over, dragging you into their storm. But when you're lucid, you can step back and say, I see this emotion. I'm feeling it, but I'm not it. You become the witness rather than the victim of your inner world. This idea can be especially powerful in moments of stress or conflict. Picture yourself in a heated argument. Your heart is racing, your mind is spinning with rebuttals, and you're on the verge of saying something hurtful. Now, what if you suddenly became aware in that moment? What if, instead of reacting, you stepped back mentally and recognized, I am aware that I'm feeling angry right now. I'm aware of the thoughts racing through my head. That tiny gap between your awareness and the situation can be the difference between escalating a fight and finding calm in the chaos. Lucid awareness doesn't just apply to the emotional or mental aspects of life, it extends to the physical as well. Take athletes, for example. When a basketball player sinks a perfect three-point shot or a runner finds their stride in a marathon, they often describe being in the zone. In that state, they're completely absorbed in their body's movements, yet there's also an awareness of the flow they're in. They are lucid in their physical experience, fully conscious of each motion while allowing the body's natural rhythm to take over. This lucidity allows for mastery and precision, not just because they're physically skilled, but because they're mentally present in each action. In fact, lucidity can be found in some of life's most mundane tasks. Think about washing the dishes. For most of us, this is a mindless chore, something to get through as quickly as possible while our thoughts wander elsewhere. But what if, while washing the dishes, you were fully aware of each sensation, the warmth of the water, the texture of the soap bubbles, the smoothness of the plates? What if, instead of mentally checking out, you stayed present in the task, experiencing it with full awareness? Suddenly, a simple household chore becomes a meditative practice, an opportunity to be deeply connected to the moment. One of the most fascinating things about this idea is that it suggests consciousness is like a spotlight. Wherever we shine it, whether on our thoughts, emotions, or surroundings, our awareness deepens. But just as easily, that spotlight can be pulled in 100 different directions. If we don't stay centered in ourselves, we lose track of where we are shining that light. We get absorbed in whatever catches our attention, much like a moth drawn to a flame. The challenge then is to keep returning to that centered awareness, to practice lucidity in every aspect of life. Ultimately, being lucid in life isn't about controlling every thought or emotion. It's about cultivating the ability to step back, to witness your experience without getting lost in it. It's about realizing that you are not just the character in the story. You are also the storyteller, the one who observes the plot unfold. And once you realize that, you gain a kind of freedom. The freedom to choose how you engage with life, the freedom to find peace even in the midst of chaos, and the freedom to be fully awake to the miracle of simply being. In essence, life is like a lucid dream. You are the dreamer, the one flying through the sky, and at any moment you can wake up within the dream and say, I see it, I feel it, I am aware. The question is, how often will you choose to wake up? We get so caught up in the movie of our daily lives, our thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences, that we forget we're the ones watching the show. We become so enmeshed in the plot lines of our minds that we lose touch with the fact that we're actually just sitting in the audience, observing it all unfold. Consider how this happens on a day-to-day basis. You wake up in the morning and immediately start thinking about your schedule, meetings, tasks, deadlines. Then, maybe you remember a recent argument with a friend, and suddenly a wave of frustration or sadness washes over you. Before you know it, you're lost in an emotional spiral, reliving the argument in your head, thinking of all the things you could have said or done differently. In that moment, you're not aware that you're thinking. You are the thought. The argument feels real, the emotions feel overwhelming, and the rest of the world fades away. But what if, in that very moment of mental replay, you could pause and say, wait, I'm here, thinking about this argument. I'm aware that I'm experiencing these emotions. With that simple shift, you've gone from being lost in the story to being the observer of it. Suddenly you're back in the theater, watching the movie of your life instead of being swept away by it. This act of stepping back from the movie of your mind and becoming aware of your own awareness is the essence of what it means to be conscious in the true sense. It's not about stopping the thoughts or emotions. It's about recognizing that you're not those thoughts or those emotions. You're the one observing them. This doesn't just happen with negative emotions like anger. It happens with happiness, excitement, and even love. Think about the last time you were so excited about something, maybe a new job, a vacation, or a personal achievement. That excitement can take over, pulling your consciousness into its grip. You become entirely absorbed in the anticipation of the event, so much so that you forget to actually be present in the moment. You're lost in the future, waiting for the happiness that's just around the corner, rather than recognizing that the excitement you're feeling right now is something you can observe, appreciate, and let flow naturally without attachment. This attachment to emotions, thoughts, and sensory experiences is what often keeps us stuck in what we perceive as reality. But what if reality wasn't what we thought it was? What if the world we experience, the sights, sounds, tastes, smells, and touches, was just a layer of perception that we've become too attached to? It's like getting lost in a virtual reality game, where the experience feels so real that you forget you're wearing a headset. In truth, life is that virtual reality game, and your consciousness is the player, always sitting in the background, quietly observing. We become synchronized with the thoughts, emotions, and sensory inputs that bombard us every day, and we forget that we're the ones watching it all. We forget that we have the ability to step back, to regain our seat in the audience and observe the show without getting sucked into it. One of the most powerful tools for stepping back into the observer's seat is meditation. People often think meditation is about silencing the mind, but it's not. Meditation is about becoming aware of the mind. It's about sitting quietly and watching your thoughts come and go, without getting involved in them. It's like watching clouds drift across the sky. You don't try to hold on to them or push them away. You just observe. In the same way, when you meditate, you begin to realize that your thoughts and emotions are not you. They are simply experiences passing through your consciousness, like scenes in a movie. You are the one sitting in the theater, quietly watching. You begin to understand that your true self is not the story unfolding on the screen, but the awareness behind it. This realization is the beginning of true freedom. When you recognize that you are the observer, not the thoughts, not the emotions, not the body, you become free from the pull of life's dramas. You can still engage with the world, still enjoy the experiences it offers, but you do so with a sense of detachment, a sense of peace. You no longer get lost in the highs and lows. You remain centered in the awareness of your own being. This doesn't mean you stop feeling or thinking. It simply means you stop identifying with those feelings and thoughts. You stop letting them define you. Instead, you become aware that you are the consciousness behind it all, the one watching the show, the one who can always step back and remember, I'm here, sitting in the theater of life, watching the movie play out. And in that awareness, you find a sense of presence, peace, and freedom that transcends the fleeting moments of life's ups and downs. You realize that no matter what happens on the screen, you are always the one sitting in the audience, observing it all with quiet, centered awareness.